Hello, my name is Brandon Jones, and this is my unit and integration test screencast for my game Jettisoned. Alright, so in this assignment we had to create unit and/or integration tests within Unity for our projects, or within whatever other IDE we chose to use. So what the test that I originally tried to do was an integration test for whether or not my things would I have rendering. Let me pop this up. So the things in my game, whether or not they would render on top of each other or not, because in Unity 2D they have sprites. Everything has a sprite and a order and layer. So I was originally going to make this test to see if these things would show up properly on top of what they're supposed to. So unfortunately, that is not a check that is currently available in Unity 2D, and so I found out that this whole test was kind of for nothing um, at the very end, because originally I had these assertions to check to see if the sprite render was visible, but then I found out that that was only a check to see if they were within the camera frustum. So that was unfortunate to find out. But in the future, if there ever is a test or if there ever is a check within Unity 2D to see if whether or not these things are ordered over top of each other and if they're visible based on that, then I'll be able to change those assertions to work out. So, since that integration test didn't quite work out, I went to unit tests, which actually did turn out to be quite valuable. I found a few flaws in my design actually while writing them. So my unit tests right here, I have some for the map, and the majority of them are for my tile objects. So my doors, my walls, my safes, my start points, things like that. One of which is to test object creation, and the next set is to test their serialization. Now, because I am in my game, one player creates their whole map and sends it across to the other player. So what I did was I serialized this map into a string and then send that across the network to the other player. The other player picks up that string and they parse through it and essentially make their map based off of that. So proper serialization and deserialization, the whole pipe, needs to be correct. Otherwise, there'll be issues. So I think that these unit tests are very valuable in that sense. If I ever add in um, another object, I'll be able to very simply add a unit test for it and to check to make sure my serialization works. So if I run all these tests, I have a they all pass, obviously. Right here, they all have check marks by them. So that showed that they all worked out. I'll go over here to the code really quick to show some brief coverage of that. So within our test, we first have to make sure within Unity to put these things in an editor file. If they're not in this folder under assets, they will not work. So that was fun to figure out. So within that, we have our class unit test tile object, which we see over here. Unit test tile object, and there's one for map as well. So if we look in tile object creation, right here I'm checking the safe object to make sure that's being created. And so I pass in tile object creation. It tries and creates it based on my essential factory within tile object. If that's null, it asserts that the thing was null and that's a failure. Otherwise, it passes it back to this, and then this actually asserts to make sure that the thing is the correct type, so it's safe. So pretty much to make sure that I attach the right component, the right script to that object. So that's an important thing because I could waste a good amount of time thinking that an object was correct and wondering why its behavior was being messed up, rather than just a unit test that takes, what is it, 0 seconds at this point to just tell me. So I think that unit tests are actually quite useful So next, and then I call cleanup because if you don't call cleanup, the didn't realize I paused it right there. Okay, so if you don't call cleanup, the objects will actually persist in the world, which is not very fun. It's just they just stick around forever. So if you continually do tests, they screw up. So that was my serialization right there. That was the creation. So I'm going to go into the serialization for a second. So we go into serialization and that, and so first we do creation, and assuming that the creation test previously worked out, then we can do our test serialization, which I have another helper function for serialization. So if we serialize the tile object, if there's any kind of error or something with my serialization, then it will essentially return a string empty. And our serialization is in the game. When we create a map, we turn the whole map into a string and send it across the network to the other player. And then that player then gets the string and serializes it or deserializes that string into an actual map function. So that's how they get what map you sent across to them for the game. So once it's turned into a string, if that worked out, if it doesn't work out, it's a fail on our test. If it does work out, it continues on to deserialize that string that we sent in. So when we deserialize it, we make sure, or we get our map object back, or sorry, a tile object, and then if it is null, so if the thing is null, that's a fail case for a deserialization, and in that case, the pass or the test would fail, and so we're going to assert that it's not equal to null. If it's not equal to null, then it's a pass, and then we once again clean up all the tiles or we clean up the tiles that we made because otherwise they will persist in the world. Same thing I'm doing with the map over here. So with the map object, we have our serialization. So once again, we'll serialize the whole map just like we did with the tiles, and then we will deserialize it. If it's not equal to null, then it's good. So once again, I think that unit tests are actually really important, if not super valuable, so that you don't have to waste a whole lot of time messing around with things trying to figure out what's wrong, rather than if you just have put these things in place, you will know that these things are correct. So you won't have to waste any time looking for them. So that was our unit test and integration test that didn't quite fall through for me. And in the future, I actually will probably be using these. Thank you very much.